Alright, welcome back. So now we're going to go ahead and start building up the main explosion. So we're going to start by creating a pretty simple particle setup, and then we'll go in and elaborate it and create some more interesting emitters in that as we move forward. So we're going to start this explosion at frame 80. So I'm just going to start my timeline at 79. I'm going to go ahead and create a emitter. And we're going to put this on a new solver and spelled this wrong. Let's just call this cylinder emitter. There we go. So the cylinder emitter, I just kind of want to have some particles shooting out off the ground around the area of the chopper. I'm going to create this emitter roughly the size of the chopper here.
And let's make this a volume emitter.
And let's just have it shooting out. So for this initial part of the explosion, we're just going to try to blast some particles out and along the ground. And this is going to add to a lot of the shape of our explosion. So it doesn't need to be perfect because it's going to shoot out so fast. I just want to give the basic shape of whatever's hitting the ground here for this couple of frames. There we go. So I just want to have it shooting out over the ground here. So I'm going to parent this to the chopper. There we go. And now let's set off a couple of keys here. Since we're starting at frame 80, I'm going to leave it on for 2 frames at a rate of 10,000. And let's key it off at frame 82. Let's start our nucleus at frame, let's start this nucleus at frame 80. And now let's just go in and adjust some of the emitter settings. So let's have them shoot up in direction Y just a little bit, but mainly it's going to be shooting out. So at frame,
Or actually, let's have a value of 500 away from the axis, and
this is going to shoot out over the ground, but let's shoot it up just a little bit. So let's give it a directional speed of 100 and like a random direction. So now we've just got it shooting up and out, mainly out though. There we go.
I'm just going to readjust this emitter here. Seems to be just a little too much above the ground. So let's just readjust that, and let's parent constrain that again.
So that's good for that emitter. Now let's go in and create another emitter that's going to shoot some particles upwards. So let's just go in and create another emitter. And we delete these particles. We can just call this another directional emitter. And let's place this just for a bit of interest, maybe around the left side of the chopper. Instead of all going up through the middle, let's just put it on the left perhaps. Maybe it's this engine that's exploding or something.
And this is just to add interest in the explosion, set things off in different directions, randomize different bits of fuel in that.
Okay, so we're going to parent this. And now let's set up some mission here. Let's shoot this up, and maybe with a spread of 0.25, and let's make it really fast. Speed of 500 and 300. And let's key the emission on for 2 frames, the same as we had before with the other emitter. Let's do a value of 3000 and at 82, 0. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, we got to use, if we select the particle and shift select or control select the emitter, let's go to particles and use selected emitter. There we go. So now if we step through here, we should get some particles shooting out. There we go. That's going to create a pretty interesting emission. Now also, I'm going to turn the inherit factor on these particles to 0.5. And now let's just adjust the particles a little bit. Let's call these particles second explosion particles. And we're going to set them up just like the first emission particles here. So lifespan, random range, 0.06, 0.01. Let's turn on the spheres. And since we're using a lot of particles here and we're going to cache them out at 0.5, we're going to get double the amount of particles. So I actually don't want these to be too big. So maybe something like this. And again, these are values that you just, once you start doing your tests with low-res sims and that, you'll find the parameters for the size of particles that work really well and the amount of particles that work really well for your sim. So let's randomize it a little bit. Now let's just go in and adjust the color again. And let's get a little brown color, maybe more of a gray to start, going into this brown, maybe a dark brown. Now let's just kind of fine tune our ramp here so we can make sure that we get more or less these three colors. So when we randomize it, more or less we're going to get these three colors. So let's just make this a lighter gray. And there we go. So let's see what this looks like. So we've just changed the lifespan and the color really and lowered the scale. That's looking pretty good for a start. So let's cache this out. At 0.5. There we go. So that's it for this clip. And in the next one, we'll start setting up the fume container and we'll take a quick sim.